On February 20th of 2016, an Uber driver went onto his shift at about 4 p.m. Right after this, he claimed that he got possessed by the Uber logo, and what he would do while on his shift was absolutely sickening. This is from Uber driver to mass killer. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also advice. Have you tried just not doing that? But anyway, today we're going over a bizarre and twisted case that will leave you a bit confused, as, trust me, it left me the same way. Jason Brian Dalton was born on June 22nd of 1970 in Greenfield, Indiana, a small town east of Indianapolis, and he was an only child. While his parents' names aren't explicitly stated, one little thing that we do know about Jason's father is that he was heavily affiliated with the Freemasons, and also that his grandmother was in the Order of the Eastern Star. This is a Masonic women's organization. Not a crazy amount about how he was treated as a child was released. It's reported that he grew up in a stable household and that the family would spend winters in Florida with extended family. As a child, though, Jason was considered to be outgoing and engaging, and he, over the years, would share great hobbies with others, such as cars and firearms. A friend of Jason's described him as being a wuss, or someone who was non-aggressive and avoided conflict. They also said that he was very charismatic, though, and could prolong a casual chat into hours. Jason, when he was old enough in 1985, began high school at Eastern Hancock. That year, he played running back for the football team, and his coach said that he was dedicated but unremarkable. Jason would also compete in track and wrestling, and he got shouted out in the yearbook for these. Classmates here described him as being a normal, friendly kid that was far from the troubled archetype. Jason, during these years, also got into drag racing, car shows, and shooting guns at ranges. He did this with a bunch of buddies. In 1986, during the middle of his freshman year, Jason's family relocated to Kalamazoo, Michigan, which was about 150 miles north from Greenfield, and it's not specified why they moved. Jason would transfer to Comstock High School, though, but this wasn't terrible for him, and nothing about his time there is very notable. At Comstock, he didn't participate in a lot, he didn't do any sports, and he just stayed to himself. He was still considered to be normal, and by 1989, Jason would graduate just casually. After that, Jason would pursue law enforcement at Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and in December of 1992, he earned his associate's degree. Jason would then skip out on the police academy for some reason, but apparently he tried to apply as a cop in Michigan, but failed because he wasn't allowed to. And so, as a result of all of that, he decided to become a mechanic. Jason would then find himself training at an auto body repair shop at Wyotech in Laramie, Wyoming. This was a hands-on program and was good for what he wanted to do. After training, Jason worked at BMW North America in New Jersey, but eventually he made his way back to Michigan, where he'd work as an insurance adjuster. In 1995, Jason would marry his girlfriend named Carol. I'm not sure how long they were together, but these two would go on to have 2 children, a daughter and a son. By all appearances, Jason seemed to be a very devoted family man. His best man at his wedding, a guy named Andrew, described Jason as being very fond of his children and someone who loved spending time with his family. Andrew said Jason was quiet, reserved, non-confrontational, and someone who could make conversation with just about anyone. Jason's family, though, would settle down into a ranch-style home in Cooper Township in the Kalamazoo suburbs. Neighbors described them as being ideal, and they would go out to eat a lot, they'd go on trips to places like Disney, they had dogs, and they were doing pretty good. One thing that they did report, though, is that they heard frequent and prolonged sessions of rapid gunfire behind Jason's property, occurring every 2 to 3 months, and that it would sometimes last a couple of days. One neighbor named David, who was a Vietnam veteran and a deer hunter, described this gunfire as being rapid fire, very loud and distinctive, that it almost sounded like a gang of 10 to 12 people shooting at once. Jason was very into guns. He had 15 of them himself. Jason, by 2011, started working for himself, appraising claims, and he made around $50,000 a year or so, and he definitely needed something to hold his money in. Oh, and that reminds me. Have you ever lost your wallet and feel like you just misplaced your entire identity? Your cards are gone. Your receipts are gone. It's like you aren't you anymore. Well, stop making life harder on yourself. Today's sponsor is Exter, the brand that actually makes your everyday carry smarter. This is their Wallet Pro. Super slim, half the size of a normal wallet, but it still carries over 12 cards and cash. One click and all of your cards slide out. That's their signature trigger mechanism. It's so satisfying. They've also got their card holder. Same smart design, but even slimmer if you want to keep it minimal, perfect for quick access. Plus, built-in RFID protection keeps your info safe from skimming, and they use vegan Italian leather with space-grade aluminum, so it's tough and sustainable. Now, this little guy is the Finder card. It's solar-powered, it connects to your phone, and you can make it ring when your wallet goes missing. Just don't put it inside of the card holder. It goes in the back. 2 hours in the sun equals 3 months of charge. So basically, you'll lose your patience before you lose your wallet. Right now, Exter's running their fall sale up to 35% off. But if you use my code HIGHTIMECRIME, you'll get up to 45% off. That's insane. If you like your stuff where you left it and your life a little less chaotic, grab one using the link below. Exter's got your back, literally. Thank you again to Exter for sponsoring this video. But coming back to, for the next several years, he was considered to be a normal guy, a good father, and nothing was super off about him. But then 2016 came, and something happened to Jason. In January and early February, he was maintaining a good routine from being an insurance adjuster and just recently an Uber driver. He was doing that to get some extra income. In late 2015 and very early 2016, Jason began to have concerns about intruders, and so he installed a fence around the house, and he even got a guard dog. It was stated that he began to fire warning shots at people also that weren't there at times. That could have been what neighbors heard occasionally. Jason also began to have very political discussions with his wife and discussions about Masonic-related things, and by February, this would really take a strain onto him. From February 13th through the 19th, Jason did his everyday routine as normal, but on February 18th, his wife noticed that he was a little down. Jason claimed that he was exhausted from doing Uber. Apparently, Jason had also recently had shoulder surgery, and so he talked to a neighbor and friend of 17 years this day named James about this, and their talk was normal. The next day, on February 19th, Jason once again had a normal day, and he even waved to his neighbor James. Nothing indicated anything sinister. But what Jason would do the day after that was absolutely sickening. On February 20th of 2016, Jason Dalton woke up with pure evil on his mind. At about 8 a.m. or so, he took his newly found guard dog, a German Shepherd named Mia, for a walk. After this, he went to run a couple of errands with his friend Brian for a couple of hours. During this, they went to 3 separate gun stores, and Jason decided to buy a tactical jacket with gun pockets. Brian had noted that Jason was a little more quiet than usual, but he was still in good spirits, that they talked about the opportunities that Uber brought. Brian said nothing about Jason's behavior was alarming. Jason would then go home at about 12 p.m. or so, and he claimed that he was taking a nap. Now, I don't know if that's what he was really doing or not, but a few hours would go by, and at 4 p.m., Jason was scheduled for an Uber shift in a silver Chevy Equinox. He decided to take his dog Mia with him. I don't believe that's allowed, but Jason didn't care. He had a plan. His first fare was a college student who refused to get in because of the dog, but at 4:15ish p.m., Jason would have his first ride with a guy named Matt Mellon. This was supposed to be just a short ride, and during it, Jason had gotten a call from his wife. This call was about his son's driver's education class, and I don't know what was said during it, but after this call, Jason snapped. All of a sudden, he floored the gas and started driving like an absolute lunatic. He was swerving lanes, blowing through stop signs, and even sideswiped a car. The guy Matt was screaming out for Jason to stop and that he just hit a car. Jason replied calmly that he didn't hit anything, and Matt yelled, "Please, just let me get out." Jason said to Matt, "Well, don't you need a ride to your friend's house? Don't you like your ride, sir?" And he was saying all of this in a high-pitched voice. Eventually, somehow, at a stop sign, Matt was able to get out of the car at 4:21 p.m. and then he ran onto a trail. He called 911, and after that, he called his fiancée, who posted about the incident on Facebook, which I will now read to you. Attention KZoo peeps. This Uber driver named Jason drives a silver Chevy Equinox is not a safe ride. A little bit ago, my fiancé got a ride with him and he was driving very erratically. They sideswiped a car blowing through the stop sign at Henderson Castle and West Main Hill, and the driver continued driving. Then this man proceeded to drive 80 miles per hour down West Main, swerving in and out of oncoming traffic. Despite Matt pleading with his driver to pull over, he refused. Finally, when he slowed down the vehicle, Matt was able to get out. He was acting completely normal throughout all of this erratic driving. Please share if you are in the KZoo area. Stay safe. 911 was called, but surprisingly, they didn't seem all that concerned. I'm thankful that no one was hurt yet, hoping this man will be arrested or hospitalized soon if he has a medical condition causing his behavior. Jason then decided that he had enough. And so rather than continuing to Uber, he went back to his home and got there at 4:34 p.m. He drank a bit of water and then loaded his Glock 19 with 15 rounds while he was in the basement, and he put a bulletproof vest on underneath of his tactical vest and jacket. Because Jason damaged their Equinox, he then called his wife for their other car keys, and they planned to meet at his parents' home so he could get the keys in Hummer H3 in about 10 minutes. Jason, in the time waiting, accepted a fare for an 18-year-old named Dayalyn Blackburn. Well, actually, it was for Macy Eldridge, who was Dayalyn's girlfriend. She apparently booked the Uber for Dayalyn using her account, and she was the one communicating with Jason at the time. Jason, I guess, got Macy's name wrong, or he used that as an excuse, and so by 5:42 p.m., he had arrived to the Meadows Townhomes apartment complex where he was going to pick up Dayalyn. Jason then spotted a woman named Tiana Caruthers who was taking 5 children to the playground. He drove up to her and rolled down his window and asked her if she was McKenna, and she said no, and asked him what he's doing. Annoyed by this, Jason then drove off, but he turned around and came back. As he was driving by, he pulled out his Glock 9mm pistol and fired 15 rounds at Tiana and hit her 4 times in the leg, arm, and liver. Jason's gun jammed in this process, and he cleared it and kept firing. Fortunately, Tiana survived, and none of the children that were with her were injured. At 5:43 p.m., Jason sped away from the scene and drove through a red light where he got into a car crash, but after crashing, he just continued fleeing the scene. After this, Jason would go to his parents' home to meet his wife, Carol, who was there with their 2 children. This was only about 1.4 miles away from where he just shot Tiana, and when he pulled the very damaged silver Chevy Equinox into the garage at about 6 p.m., his wife was confused. Jason got out and told her a story about how some jealous taxi driver in a maroon Impala had purposefully sideswiped his car and shot a gun at him because the taxi driver was angry about Uber drivers taking their business. Carol was very off-put by this, and she knew that Jason was lying to her because he wouldn't look her in the eyes, even when she stepped directly in front of him. Jason would then call Macy Eldridge, the girl who booked the Uber a bit ago, and tell her that he couldn't complete the pickup anymore. Right after this, Jason then went upstairs in his parents' room and took a 9mm pistol out of his father's closet. He loaded it with ammunition and then went downstairs and gave it to his wife. He told Carol that it wouldn't be safe to be at their home without a gun and that she can't go back to work and that the children shouldn't go back to school Monday. Carol was very alarmed with what Jason was saying, and she asked what he was talking about, and he cryptically told her that she would find out on the news, but that his name probably won't be included, but she'll know that it's him. After this, Jason then went to get into the Hummer H3, and he tried to start it, but it wouldn't start. So he then grabbed the keys to the black Chevy HHR his wife had been driving, and he left the house. At 6:44 p.m., Jason was seen on surveillance video withdrawing money from an ATM, and for the next 35 minutes or so, he'd drive around the Kalamazoo area. At 7:19 p.m., Jason would arrive to his house where he retrieved a Walther P99 9mm pistol, and he decided to leave his Glock on a workbench in the basement. At 7:37 p.m., Jason left his house, and I don't know how, but he was still able to pick up more Uber fares, and so that was his next plan. Jason, at about 8 p.m., accepted a new Uber fare, and he drove this passenger around 1.6 miles or so and dropped him off without any problems. It's very weird. Jason then picked up another Uber fare at 8:18 p.m. and drove this passenger approximately 5.4 miles to their destination, and once again, nothing happened. At 9:21 p.m., Jason would then pick up another fare of 3 passengers at the Fairfield Inn, and they wanted to go to a beer exchange. Jason took them, and once again, this ride was perfectly normal. I don't know what happened to Jason for an hour and a half or so, but after dropping them off, he decided it was time to snap again. At 9:58 p.m., a 53-year-old named Richard Smith, his 17-year-old son Tyler Smith, and Tyler's girlfriend Alexis had entered the parking lot of the Sealy Kia dealership to look at some cars. Both Richard and Tyler had gotten out of the car to look at the cars, while Alexis decided to stay back. At 10:01 p.m., Dalton entered the parking lot in the black Chevy HHR and parked his car in front of the dealership about 5 to 6 spaces away from where Richard parked their car. Jason got out of his car and then approached Richard and Tyler and asked them what they were looking at. Before they could even answer, Jason opened fire on both of them and killed them with anywhere from 14 to 18 shots. He then, according to Alexis, tried to get into a nearby BMW but failed, and so he got back into his car and left. Jason then fled the scene, and Alexis went up to Tyler and Richard and called 911. After this, Jason continued to drive about 5 miles away to a Cracker Barrel restaurant. At 10:24 p.m., Jason approached a 62-year-old named Mary Lou Nye while she was sitting in her minivan in the parking lot. He walked up to her and asked her if she could spare $1 to make America great again, and when she said no, he shot her. Jason would have left, but he said that he heard people screaming, and so he continued. After walking around the van, Jason went to an adjacent vehicle, a Chevy Cruze, and fired 17 more shots to all 4 passengers inside. Their names were Dorothy Judy Brown, who was 74, Barbara Hawthorne, who was 68, Mary Jo Nye, who was 60, and Abigail Kolp, who was 14. All 3 women were killed almost instantly. Meanwhile, Abigail, the young girl, was shot in the head, but she would go on to survive. Jason would then once again flee the scene of the Cracker Barrel, and he went back to his house to reload his gun. By 11:30 p.m., the neighbors reported hearing 3 gunshots from Jason's home. About 34 minutes later, at 12:04 a.m. on February 21st, Jason somehow was still on Uber, and he got another fare for 3 passengers. Nothing happened during this ride though, and he dropped all three of them off at Western Michigan University dormitory. 8 minutes later at 12:12 a.m., Dalton got another fare and picked up 4 passengers at Bell's Eccentric Cafe and then transported them to a hotel. Once again, no issues. Just a couple of minutes later, Jason picked up 3 more passengers at the Central City Tap House and drove them to another bar. During this ride, one of the passengers, a guy named Derek, jokingly asked Jason, "You're not the shooter, are you?" Because at that point, all of Kalamazoo and the surrounding areas knew a lunatic was on the loose. Jason replied back, no, he's just very tired and that he's been driving for 8 hours. But it wasn't a response that you'd expect because it was very calm and quiet. Jason dropped them off with no issues, and a few minutes later, at 12:36 a.m., a Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Sergeant saw Jason and his car driving and pulled him over. Jason was arrested at 12:40 a.m. with no incident, and he was wearing all of his gear at the time. He complied with the officer's demands and went down without a fight. Some time later, during his trial, Jason would go on to claim that the Uber app possessed him through its Eastern Star-like symbol, which he said turned black and revealed some sort of devil head, and that it issued uncontrollable assignments to him that were involuntary. Jason would have psychiatric evaluations done, and the professionals rejected what he said. He was found to be competent. Jason further stated, though, that the iPhone took over his entire mind and body, that he wasn't crazy, that the app made him get his gun and vest and do everything right. Jason Dalton, 3 years after his crimes, would be sentenced to life in prison without parole on February 5th of 2019. He pled guilty to 6 counts of first-degree murder and other related charges. As for why he truly did all of this, I don't know. I mean, obviously in some way he was insane. I know that a person can be sane and commit a heinous crime, but that doesn't mean that they're still not a lunatic. What Jason did was terrible, and the fact that he murdered 6 innocent people for zero reason and changed the life of a poor 14-year-old girl forever is just tragic. Those people deserve to be remembered. Tyler Smith was 17 years old and a vibrant senior at Matawan High School, known for his infectious smile that lit up any room. He excelled in both baseball and soccer, and he dreamed of college athletics. Tyler was a natural leader who helped younger teammates with patience and his humor. Tyler loved family game nights. He often challenged both of his parents and sister Emily to board games, and he cherished spending time with his dad, Rich. Tyler was described as kind-hearted and great at jokes. He had a knack for making friends feel like family, and he left a legacy through scholarships in his name that support youth sports in Kalamazoo. Richard, or Rich Smith, was 53 years old and a devoted family man who worked as a construction manager at Jacobs Field Services North America, bringing both dedication and wit to his projects. He was married to his wife Laurie since 1992, and he was a proud father, often hosting lively barbecues where his storytelling would shine. Rich loved fishing trips, church gatherings at First Baptist of Matawan, and planning annual Disney vacations with his family. He was known for his unwavering faith and protective nature, and he died shielding Tyler. He was remembered by his colleagues as a mentor whose humor and warmth left a great mark. Mary Jo Nye was 60 years old and a retired Battle Creek school teacher whose gentle spirit touched generations of students. She was a lifelong educator and was celebrated for her patience. She often stayed late to help kids who struggled, and she found joy in mentoring through after-school programs. Mary Jo loved reading historical novels. She had a flower garden she tended to alongside her sister Mary Lou, and she sipped coffee during quiet mornings. She and a close friend group went to Cracker Barrel constantly, and they were returning from an acrobatics show when she was killed. Her legacy is honored through a Battle Creek Garden memorial. Mary Lou Nye was 62 years old and a nurturing part-time preschool aide at Emmanuel Lutheran Ministries in Bridgman, where her warm hugs comforted children and parents alike. She was married for a long time and a mother to 2 sons. Unfortunately, she lost one of them to a heart condition, though. But Mary poured her love into her family. She shared her homegrown vegetables from her garden with everyone around. Mary Lou enjoyed baking apple pies, she attended church services, and she organized community potlucks. Her faith really guided her spirit. Mary Lou was driving her minivan after a fun evening out when she was fatally shot, and she's remembered for her selfless care. Barbara Hawthorne was 68 years old and a beloved Battle Creek homemaker whose home was the heart of her family. She was a grandmother to Abigail Koff, and she doted on her grandkids with homemade cookies and bedtime stories. She often knitted quilts for them. Barbara volunteered at her church, singing in the choir, and she cherished game nights playing cards with friends. Barbara was known for her quiet strength and infectious laugh. Dorothy, or Jude Brown, was 74 years old and a spirited Battle Creek grandmother whose zest for life inspired everyone around her. Judy was a dedicated community volunteer. She crafted charity quilts and organized food drives. She always did it with a smile on her face. Judy loved traveling. She explored Europe's castles at one point, and she was also a fierce competitor in bridge tournaments. She was very good at outsmarting her opponents. Judy's optimism and love for spoiling her grandchildren with homemade jams really defined who she was. An annual bridge event in the honor of Judy now occurs. Rest in peace to all 6 people who lost their lives on this awful day.